Hey, how's it going? It's Glenn Mason here, and welcome to the very first tutorial of codeaccomplice.com. And in today's tutorial we're going to be making this very handy slider or carousel for the top of your WordPress homepage. So what it's going to do is it's going to show the most recent free blog posts by their featured image at the top, and you can slide through it like you see here. You can click through the little dots, and it's really quite handy to show these at the top of your page, and it looks really nice as well. So without much further ado, let's get on with the tutorial. Okay, so I've got a plain boring version of WordPress here. This is running on WordPress version 3.9.2, and I've populated it with a few posts that all have featured images. So for this carousel is going to go in this space up here underneath the navigation and above the first post and the sidebar. It's going to span the full width there, and this will require the featured images, like I said. And just in case you didn't know how that's done, you go into the post, and then down the bottom right hand side there's the featured image, and inside of there you can remove and set and change it all over. So that's how we're going to be controlling this, is featured images, and we're going to make it load the most recent free posts into the carousel at the top. Now to do this we're going to be using a plugin which is my favorite carousel plugin. It's called Our Carousel, and you can get this by going to ourgraphic.com/Our Carousel. This is really cool carousel. You know, you can do a lot of stuff with it. I mean, we're going to be using the one slide thing, and you know, you can click and drag if you want to. You can click on the dots, you can click next, previous, whatever, and it even has a little momentum you know, elasticity thing going on there. So it's really neat to use, and the documentation is really good as well. So we're going to be using this. So I've already downloaded this, and we'll put this into our project. So here is, as you download it, Our Carousel, you want to get the Our Carousel folder inside, which has all of the stuff like the CSS and the JavaScript, and drag it into your theme. So I got my 2012 theme here on the left, and I'm just going to put the Our Carousel folder in here. I mean, if you want to, you can go through and put the CSS in the CSS folders and the JavaScript in the JavaScript folders, but just for now we'll do it this way. So that's in there now. So the next thing to do is we need to include the CSS and the JavaScript into our header. So let's go on over to the code. I'm using PHP Storm. It's quite good. You can use whatever you want, but I recommend it. So this is WordPress load up in PHP Storm, and we're going to go into our theme. So WP Content, Themes 2012, and the Our Carousel is in here. So let's open up header, and we'll just go ahead and just copy a script. Now we're going to put this after WP Ed. I mean, you could put it in your footer if you wanted to, but we'll just do it up here for now. The reason for putting it in the footer is that it helps page load times. So we'll go in here. We'll do short PHP. We'll go blog info template URL, because it's in our template, and then we'll call it, it's Our Carousel, carousel. And we want to load the JavaScript files, so we want our.carousel.min.js. Our carousel.min. Okay, so that's included the JavaScript in. Also, we'll do the CSS as well. So we'll have style sheet, link, rel, and the href will be we'll just copy and paste this template URL and the our carousel as well. Why not? Paste that in there, and we want to grab our carousel.css. Carousel.css. So now the CSS and JavaScript is on our page. So now we need to figure out where in the code we need this to go. Now we know it's going to be on the home page, so let's open up index.php, but where is it going to go in all this? Well, if we have a look at our site and we right click and go inspect element, we can use the magnifying glass to kind of look around and see, you know, what code is around the area we want to put it in. So we know it's in main wrapper, and it's before primary site content. And if you look in here as well, you've got secondary, primary. That's the main content and the sidebar. So we want to put it above primary, but inside of main wrapper. So let's go into the code again. Now here's primary, and if you look in the header, there's the main wrapper down there. So this file here is calling getHeader, which is loading the header, and then it goes into this. So our carousel should go right here. So we can test that by typing in here or something, and go save, look at the page, refresh it, and yeah, sure enough, that's put it in there. So before we actually put the carousel in fully, we need to get the data loading into it, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to run a custom loop using wp_query. So let's start writing that out. So we'll open up PHP, and we'll call this the query equals new wp_query, and inside of that we'll declare we'll have a variable inside there called args, and then we'll just close that off. We'll define args above it. So args equals an array. Now in here we can specify lots of different arguments which control how WP query will go and get the posts. So for us, we want to just do posts per page, and then that equals free, because we only want to show free. So now after the query, we want to open up an if statement. So we're going to go if the query, and then the little arrow, have posts. So this is going to check to see if that query returns any posts, and then if it does, we want to run a while loop. So we go while the query, and then the little arrow, have posts, and then we want to load in the posts. So it'll be the query, the post, and so that's going to start the while loop off. Now we need to close it, so we close the PHP up there. Now we open it up again, and then run the end while and the end if, and let's just clean up the indentation there. Okay, so we have an if statement that closes and a while loop that closes. Now let's just quickly test to make sure that that's putting back results. So we can just open up PHP inside there and go the underscore title, and then brackets, and close that PHP. And if we go save and have a look at the page, we should see, closes, we should see one more post, lorem ipsum, and another test post up here in a line. If we refresh, what did I do wrong? Okay, simple mistake, I just didn't put the brackets after have posts. And if we save that and then test, it should work this time. There we go. One more post, lorem ipsum, another test post. So we're putting back data now. So the next thing to do is we want to get the featured image for each one. So to do that, inside of here we'll just remove the title for now, and we're going to use the function the post thumbnail. So we'll go the underscore post thumbnail and brackets. Helpful if you put that in PHP, of course. Okay, and we'll just save that and see what happens. As you can see, we've now got 3 post thumbnails. Now, we probably would like these to be the width of the page and maybe not as tall, so they're cropped in without stretching or warping the image in some way. So when we upload images, WordPress in the back end, it resizes them to lots of different sizes, and you can actually specify custom sizes that it will resize it to when you upload an image. So we want to get an area here. We want to firstly find out how wide this is. So we can do that by just hovering over, and that's 960. So we know we want the image to be 960 pixels wide and probably about 300 pixels tall. Let's just go with that. So let's go back into the code. Now we want to open up functions.php. Now in here you'll see lots and lots of gobbledygook, and it's all controlling how the theme controls the site. So if we go right to the bottom, and we'll just comment this as custom. What we want to do is we want to add an image size. So we'll go add underscore image underscore size, and then in brackets the first thing we need to do is need to give it a name. So we'll call this homepage hyphen slider. Now the second parameter is the width. Now we said we wanted to make it 960, so let's go 960, and the height 300. Now the fourth parameter is crop. So we'll just put this as true for now, as the basic crop command. So that will, now when we actually upload images, it will run that through, add image size, our new one, and make the new size of 960 by 300. Okay, just to make sure that this doesn't cause any errors, if for some reason there's no add image size in the future, we'll put this inside of an if statement called if function underscore exists, and then we'll just call add underscore image underscore size in quotes, and then we'll just surround that in the curly braces. Now that just makes sure that it won't error out if for some reason add image size doesn't appear there. It's always good practice to do that. So we've given this a name of homepage slider, so now we can go and refer to that inside of where we call the post thumbnail. So let's copy that and go to index.php, and where it says the post thumbnail, we can just, inside the parenthesis there, we can put in homepage slider. Now we've got to make sure we put in the quotes around that so we can see it as a string. Save that and go back to the page, refresh. Now it doesn't appear how we'd perhaps like it to appear. It's 300 pixels high, but it's not 960 pixels wide, and it's not cropped. Now the reason for this is because I've added in the add image size function after I put the images in. So that means that it hasn't actually resized the images yet. If I put another image in now, then it will resize it. So that can be a bit of a problem if you're doing this on a blog that has already got hundreds of images. But luckily there's a plugin which can help out with this, and it's called Regenerate Thumbnails. So if you go inside your WordPress backend and go to plugins, you can go to Regenerate Thumbnails, thumbnail, and then search, and it's this one here, Regenerate Thumbnails. If you install that, la-di-da, and then activate. Okay, now under the Tools menu, you will see a Regen Thumbnails button. So you click on that, and then click on Regenerate All Thumbnails. Now, depending on how big, or how many images that you have on your blog, you will experience different times and how long this will take to actually work. But you see, I've only got a few images on my test site, so it didn't take too long at all. Now, let's go and see what that's done. If we press refresh now, you can see that it's made them the correct size, how we actually asked it to do in add image size. So that's solved that problem. So now from this point onwards, whenever we add any images, it will take our add image size into consideration and then make an image size and call it homepage slider. So we have our images now that we want to make the slider out of. So the next step really is to get the carousel working. So we'll go to our index now, and we need to put some code around the post thumbnail. So a good way of doing this is to put it in a list element. That's one way of doing it, but I think for now, just for simplicity, we'll just put it inside of a div. So we'll call this div class, and we'll just say home slider. Whoops. I'm using a new keyboard here, so bear with me. Okay, so home slider. Now, that's actually in the wrong place. We want to put this outside of the loop. So we'll put this within the if part. So what we'll do is, like, if it has posts, then it should make a homepage slider. If not, then it shouldn't make a homepage slider. Okay, so let's close off PHP right there, and then open it again for the while. And then in between, this this little bit of HTML we can put in here, we'll just paste in the home slider, and then we'll just move the ending div outside of the end while, but before the end div, and we'll just insert that back in. Okay, so now the home slider is outside of the while loop. Now inside of the while loop, we'll create another div and call that slide, I guess. So give it a class of slide and close that off, and just put that around there. I have autocomplete of my HTML elements, so it's handy sometimes, but it's a bit annoying other times. You have to kind of like cut the div and then put it on the other side of what you want it to be. So now that's not going to do anything to the effect on the page. If we refresh that, it doesn't make any difference because we haven't got any styles applied to it just yet. So now we can start integrating our carousel. Luckily, it's quite straightforward to do. If you go to the Our Carousel website again, and then click on How To, it tells you what needs to happen. So you can see we've already included the JavaScript. We already have jQuery on the page, and then we've got the Our Carousel on there. We haven't put the theme in just yet, but we might want to do a custom theme if you want to. I'll probably end up putting that in a minute, just so we can see what it should look like. Now it says that we need to have a large container, a main container, sorry, where we have the Our Carousel class on, or not necessarily the Our Carousel class, but just something we can reference it by. And then inside each div or element, you can use a list element if you want to. Basically, each element inside it's going to create a slider out of. So what we need to do now is we need to do this code here. So we might as well just copy and paste. So let's copy that, go back to our code, and then after our closing div for home slider, but still inside of the if statement, we'll just open up a script tag, and we'll just paste in. And so it's going document ready. Now it needs to initialize our carousel on an element, and that element needs to be home slider. And since we're using a class, we'll put a full stop before it and then paste in home slider. So if we save that and have a look at the page, we should see something happening already. Let's close that. Okay, and apparently nothing's happening, so I wonder why. Let's refresh. Definitely not working. Let's see. You know, it could be the theme. Let's have a look at the not the source, the inspect element. We can use inspect element in Chrome to see if we have any bugs. After waiting for half an hour, of course, for it to open. Okay. So this error is likely caused by jQuery not actually working on the page. Undefined is not a function. That sort of means that it doesn't really know what it's talking about. So now, although in our source jQuery it looks as though it is there, and then our carousel is defined underneath of it, it could just mean that we need to include jQuery ourselves. So it's a bit hacky, but let's get it working. So we can go to the jQuery website, jQuery.com, and then download it. And let's see, I want to get the let's go compressed version, so it's minified. Okay, so get jQuery, copy that, and let's go to the JS folder inside of the 2012 theme, paste jQuery in, back to our code, and now above where we define our carousel, we will specify jQuery. So JS / and it was called jQuery -1.11.1, and it's .min. Good. So jQuery is now on there. So if we save that and refresh and go back to the page, it's doing something. So now it's working. Our error has gone away. So we can close that. And then now we can start working on getting this looking how you want it to look. So I think for now, let's actually include the theme, just so we can get a good idea of how it's put together. Then we can customize that later on. So we'll copy the CSS of the our carousel, we'll paste, and let's just specify the theme and save. Go back. I don't think it will do that much. Nope. So the carousel is working. Now it's not working how we want it to do. So we need to specify some parameters for our carousel itself. So let's go to the our carousel website and click on customizing. In here there's lots and lots of parameters that we can pass in to make it do what we want it to do, and this is how we do it. Inside the brackets we have curly braces, and then it's just a list of different things that you can do. So now the customizing page is handy. The one I find even more handy is by going to demos and then clicking on the type of thing that's roughly where you want it to do. Now we want to have a one slide carousel, so if we go to one slide, we can go in here and we can just say, alright, it needs to have single item true. So you know what, let's just copy and paste all of these and put them into our slider and see what happens. It should yield the same results, making sure you have the curly braces, of course. Save that and let's have a look. There we go. So now we have a slider which we can slide through. Very nice. So how about customizing this now? Maybe we don't want to have the next button and previous button, so we can go into the code and we can think, well, navigation is shown next to previous buttons, so we can perhaps make that false. Save, go back, now they're not there. So very nice. Now what if you wanted these buttons here to be a different color? Well, we can right click on them and go inspect element, and we can have a look and see that that particular thing is in the Alpagination class, and it's a span inside of our page. So on the right here, when you're in Chrome and looking at inspect element, you can actually see what style sheet that is being called from. So we can see that it's altheme.css and it's on line 56. So if we go and load that up, so altheme and line 56, let's open up our line numbers, line 56. So this is the elements that are controlling those things. So if we go back now, so we've got no color in here, so we want to find out where the color is defined. So let's go and have a look. The color is defined on line 43 over here, and that's the color. So we can even change that in inspect element if you want to. For instance, we might want to make it red, so FF0000. Now they're red. If you want to make that a permanent change, then we go to line 43 inside of here, line 43, and we'd make it red. Like so. Save and then refresh. Now it's red all the time. So you can customize it like that. You can perhaps, if you wanted them a bit closer together, you could adjust the margin, and you can adjust this inside. So we don't want that's top and bottom, this is left and right, so we can just use the arrow keys to go up and down, and we can move those to make them closer together. So perhaps we want that to be stuck at 4 pixels, so let's go back to the code and we'll just change that 7 to a 4, and maybe we don't want red, maybe we want a nice color, so let's just pick a color here. Maybe we want it to be green, because green is the best color, of course. Choose, save, let's go back, and it's green. So you can customize more and more as much as you like by going through each element in inspect element and then finding out where the style is, what line number it is, what file it is, and then going into the actual code itself and changing that around. And really there's nothing you can't do with this. You can move the next buttons to a different place, you can change the look of them, you can just really customize this to your heart's content. So there's a lot of things we can do with this. We can go back to the documentation and have a look down the parameters that we can specify. Perhaps we want it to add autoplay in there, so to do that we just go to our code and specify on a new line autoplay equals true, and then by refreshing we can see, if we wait, there we go, autoplay. Another thing that you can do to make this more of a functional homepage slider is you might want to have the title of the post on there and also make it linkable to the actual post. So let's go and do that right now. So let's go over here to our slide. So the actual post thumbnail, we want to put that inside of a class of let's just say slide image. And then we want to have another class after that called slide title. And inside of here we'll just go PHP and then we'll go the underscore title and then parenthesis and then close that off. And we should start to see, it'll be unstyled right now, but if we refresh we'll see that there is the title in there on each one. So let's go and style that real quick. So let's go inside the Al theme as we have it open. and we'll put this at the bottom here. So this would be a slide title. We did call it slide title, didn't we? Yeah, slide title. Good. And then let's go position absolute. Let's align it 20 pixels from the left and 20 pixels from the bottom. And let's give it a background color of straight black. And let's give it a font size of, let's give it 20 pixels. Font color of white. And let's give it some padding. Let's go 10 pixels. And a bit of border radius, why not? 4 pixels. So let's save that. And let's have a look. Now you can see on each one we've got a little black box and the title is in there. So the last thing to do really is to make the whole thing a link to the actual post, because what use is a homepage slider if you can't actually click through and go to the post. So let's just quickly do that. Let's go to the index, and we can just put an ahref around the whole thing. Why not? Let's close that off and put that down there. Oops. Indent that. And then inside the actual href, you want to open up PHP and then just type in the permalink. Now I think that should work. Let's have a quick look. Yep. There we go. So that's about that. That wraps this tutorial up really. You can customize it more and more if you want. You can go ahead and style the next buttons. You can do loads of things with this, but that is a basic way of putting a carousel onto your homepage. Well, I hope that wraps up everything and you can go ahead and make your own carousel now. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, then please like on YouTube and press comment on there as well. Let me know how you got on. Also go to twitter.com/codeaccomplice if you have any requests for tutorials. I read every single one, and I'll try my best to make a tutorial out of your request if you're so pleased to do so. So until next time, I'm Glenn Mason, and happy coding.